Welcome on this first co-animated podcast episode with Lubomir Arsov. I'm very happy to dive into sovereignty concepts, spirituality, psychology through the prism of art and animation. Please welcome on this 1.5 hour podcast with Lubomir and enjoy.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for this honor of being my first guest on this podcast. I'm very honored because you're such a guest to me. Like it's been now a few years of following you and following what you do from far and still like following and seeing like the things you publish and always being pretty touched by the type of messages you're spreading. And this is a type of art I'm not used to see. This is not common. And it was very nice for me to be like starting this podcast with you because on that podcast, I would like to treat about sovereignty. Do you pronounce it that way in English?
Sovereignty.
Sovereignty.
But yeah, I get you.
Sovereignty.
Yeah.
It's a hard word to pronounce.
I can still, it's difficult to spell too.
Kind of. Yeah, a little bit. So that's the main topic I wanna explore here. It's not very common, but this is something that is very into my heart. Like this is a very important topic to me. I want to explore and dive into this subject in any ways possible. And for me, art is a way to go deep into this topic as well, especially art. So that's why I saw like the connection between what you do and your creations and this topic for people to explore. So that's why I saw that as a very logical way to start. So for the people not knowing you, I think that would be great if you can introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your background, what you do, who you are, in a few words.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me as your first guest. It's an honor, and I look forward to diving deeper in the conversation. Lately, in the last 1 or 2 years, I have not been, out on social media or even saying much. There's a lot cooking within me, but I'm also just observing the world and observing myself. And there will be a time soon when I'll be expressing more. But I'm an artist. I work in animation. I work with the medium of storytelling, drawings, animated storytelling. And as a professional, I work in film, TV. I live in Canada. But personally, and which is why, we know each other and how you know me, is my work centers around this moment in time that we're navigating collectively, this moment of time of great revelation, great unraveling, a crisis, both personal, familial, national, and global in all these ways, and making sense of 15 years ago when I started awakening to some of the hidden aspects of the world and how events, trends, and different aspects of our lives were pushed by various different forces. I couldn't look away. And so I started digging deep within myself as well, because seeing the outer world can only be seen through the lens of the state of our personal self, right? Because we're constantly refracting reality through that. So clearing my own lens and expanding my understanding and my view of the outer world, which I'm also part of, is something that I've aimed to put into my personal art. And my personal art, I only have 3 pieces out. I only have 3 pieces because one, it takes time and resources to make these things on the side of life. In addition to, I only do them when I have a strong inner impulse that I can't deny, and I have to do it, in which case I put my life on pause and I make these things happen. So I don't force anything. I may never make anything again. I don't know. So that's generally.
But are you working on something currently?
I'm always working on something, but not actively. Like I've got 2 big stories in mind, which I would love to expand, to create, to show to the world, and also for me to unfold, to understand those stories better. Because the more I dive into the stories, the more I download, and the more understanding I get about the themes I'm exploring. So I grow a lot through the art, inevitably. But they're ambitious projects, and we'll see if the right people, resources, and effort comes through. But yeah, I'm working on a few things, things that interest me right now and have actually since I released In Shadow has been the whole transhuman thing. Even before AI started popping off in 2022, I was writing about AI because I saw it coming starting in 2018 and the way that the mechanization, not only of bodies, of culture, the management of societies, but also the mechanization of consciousness and how that was happening. Because mechanization of consciousness is already with us, right? It's our egoic self, it's our persona. Those are pattern-based mechanical structures. And in one way to see the spiritual journey of self-expansion is understanding those and disarming them so that the true self can start coming up more and more, right? But
Yeah.
now with the digital space and the digital realm that's building, we have even more of that structure that's being imposed on people invisibly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, AI is taking so much of our space now. And I think we don't see the consequences yet, but it already has a lot of consequences, and even like on kids and younger generation, it's very hard now to see the truth and see what's real. And I think like the frontier between digital and real world is very hard for us to get, especially for people that work already into video games or like digital things. It's gonna be like very complicated more and more to make a difference for the brain, because apparently like the brain is not even doing any difference between what he sees in real and what he sees in video games. So if we mix all of this, for people that are fragile or whatever, it's going to be very hard to navigate through that if they don't have discernment, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's true. I agree. And the question is to me always is why is it entering here now? Because I see it not as I don't see the digital realm and AI as an attack on humanity, as in if we get rid of it, we're back to normal. I don't think there's no normal state in humanity. It seems
Mm.
like we're constantly evolving every day, every cycle, every year. Every cycle is just moving us further and further into more elements of evolution. So to me, the question is, why now? What is it asking of us? And I have some thoughts about that, but it's like, you know, we have to navigate the confusion. We have to navigate, like you said, what is real and what is not. And now that question is much bigger and much more in our faces.
Yeah. I think we wouldn't get to know ourselves that much if we were not confronted to this chaos. I mean, it's not easy, it's very painful, but in some ways, that's the only way we get to see the contour, the silhouette of our true self. If we try to, and if we have the proper questioning, being confronted to that harsh things can help us to know what is the real us and what is actually the ego, that it's not even our true identity, like it's built, it's not very real. It's from our education, it's from the system, it's from the conditioning, it's all of that. And it's important for us to rediscover ourselves and be like, hey, what is my ego actually, like what does that mean, what is it? And if I dive deeper, am I not behind and like wider than that? And yeah, it takes a lot of work, of inner work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, how do you feel about that work right now? Has it accelerated for you, like you were saying, or
It's funny because you remember like 1 year ago, I think I had like a conversation. I sent you a message and I told you like one day I will make a podcast
Mhm.
and I will talk to you.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I don't know why it wasn't the right timing. I don't know. I guess there is a timing for everything, but that was not the moment. And in the meantime, I had a very harsh 2025. Like I have to be very honest. It was in French we say I don't know how you call it in English. It's a way. It's been a year where I've left behind all the parts of me that weren't my essence.
Mm.
Like a snake. When it does hit how do you
Sheds
call
the
it?
skin. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what happened. So it was not even about building. It was not about construction. It was not about the capitalization or, like building things up. It was the complete opposite. It was like, let go of this, let go of that, let go, let go, let go. And then you're like, what is left?
Yeah.
It's been my sensation. Like it was not funny. And that's why, when I see your videos where you actually like, you put an illustration of what is the healing process like in reality, and healing is violent.
Yeah.
Healing
Yeah.
is violent. And for me, it was not, I didn't realize it before, but this year I realized, okay, healing is not fun. It's not pretty.
Hmm.
And this is very, very harsh. And you can end up very lonely in this process because it's so hard to explain.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, he's very real and you are very authentic when you illustrate this process with such a raw way.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's raw. It is. Well,
This
because
is what I like about you, like your
yeah,
art is raw, but at the end, you still have the light
yeah,
and the hope that it's gonna
yeah,
be better. And still, shadow is powerful and you
yeah.
can learn into it. So,
Well, yeah, it's like it's the full spectrum of reality. It's like the darkest and the lightest exist, and
yeah.
our range of understanding, if we can understand both of those, and it's not easy. Yeah, it's that's when we start playing the game, understanding the full spectrum, and we start seeing the polarities and how they merge and separate. And yeah, I'm very inspired by the work of the magicians, so-called, those who are connected to God, doing God's work on the earth, but also know the laws of the descending power of the divine realms, and how to be actual vessels in this world of change, behind the scenes sometimes, invisibly mostly, never on Instagram. And so, yeah, it's more and more like understanding those notes of creation. But I just wanted to say about 2025, and I hope you've moved through some of the heaviest stuff. I just want to commend you on facing facing it. I know there's always leftover things we have.
Yeah, I'm getting much, much, much better, fortunately.
Yes. It's just so you know, 2025 was also had difficult parts for me and for many other people. I'm not sure if you know. And also
Yeah,
maybe it was the year of the snake, Chinese astrology, right?
yeah,
And a number 9, finishing of a cycle.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It all makes sense in that way. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
inevitably. Yeah, it's
I'm trying to, like push myself away from numerology and all of that things, even though I think there are a lot of truth. But I guess like a part of my process has been to internalize my own spirituality and not rely on any dogma or beliefs or tools. But it's true, like when I ended up like reading a little bit about the 9 cycle and the number 9 and everything, I was like, okay, it seems like it's been real for others as well. So very chaotic. Did you
yeah.
feel like the same kind of like just,
Yeah,
layers of onion moving around and getting away? So
I did, especially the last 3 months, the last, quarter of the year was the last pull. And really, I do feel I'm starting to feel different now this year. I know the year hasn't really started, depending on how you look at it, but
yeah.
the Chinese year and then the equinox are starting in March, Chinese New Year in February. But I'm already feeling a shift in me. It's a shift that has to do more with building, with expanding, with creating a foundation. And I'm just following that inspiration, following that
Mm.
my resources with my planning, because I totally hear you about not using, whether it's divination for sure or numerology, astrology, and not being influenced by what we see and what we are forecasting. And yet at the same time, when we look back, it does seem like we are in this game of being puppets to the cosmos too, and
Yeah.
there's constantly strings that we have to see and be like, oh, there's another string.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. What would you say have been your deepest triggers?
Deepest triggers have been relationships, romantic relationships. And with me, my relationships and feeling, just feeling remnants from my childhood, friendships not going well. And, like minor or bigger betrayals are always, are always a big point for human beings. And they're also portals that need to be passed through, because there's something about the traumas that we experience with our parents, often abandonment, rejection, even if they're there, even if our parents are with us, there could still be rejection and abandonment, emotional, like all kinds. So those are themes as human beings that I think are big triggers, but when they're faced and transmuted, I think the game begins to be more exciting, because these are parts of being spirit, and biology means that biology can die. It can be left outside of the people, the tribe, the village. And that's very painful, because also the spirit is yearning to belong, to melt into the oneness of God at all times, into the union of life. But when there's a separation from what we perceive as life, that's extremely painful. And in a way, that's what physical reality and life is like. It's being separated from spirit. And so I think that's like the deepest trigger. And for sure, I've had my battles with those. And if we don't look at them, if we don't feel them, if we don't deal with them adequately, they can turn into darkness. And darkness can even turn into evil, because revenge can come up, superiority. And that's playing out in the world right now, because I really do feel when pain is not felt and processed, and we don't have the institutional awareness, we don't have those teachings really available for our cultures of how you do that. But when we don't do that, it does turn into evil, because the weak parts that feel so destroyed, often with the narcissism of narcissistic leaders and others, have to arm themselves to such a degree that now their decision is, I will always be the powerful one, and I will never be hurt again. I will dominate by any means.
Yeah.
And there's a vengeful energy that's almost cosmically vengeful, like against God. Like, there's no even wanting to surrender to love and all that, because it's too hurtful and painful. And that's understandable. So yeah, I think that's the great game that we're moving into more and more right now globally. And that's one of the underlining dynamics.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very true that if you deny your shadow, the shadow will still exist, but it's gonna be like so subconscious that you're not even aware of it anymore. But this is where it takes a lot of power, and it can be violent, and it can hurt yourself, and it can hurt others. But for example, in my case, like I didn't realize how powerful it was before this year. I think I didn't realize how strong my denial was on some part of who I am, that I
Yeah.
had to be super honest and just reintegrate all those parts one by one.
Mm.
And yeah, I've been coached, let's say, mentored by someone I really appreciate deeply. And before starting this work, I thought I was pretty okay. And when I started, I was like, no, I had so much work to do, so much work. And as you said, like our childhood wound are taking so much space, even though they belong to the past. If we don't make this inner work of, okay, I'm detached from memorial things, this belongs to the soul, but this doesn't necessarily belong to the being. Like the being doesn't need to be attached to these past and these wounds. But as you said, like it has to be felt to go away. And I think in modern psychology, they explain us the why, and they will be like, yeah, this happened to you, that's why you feel that way, blah blah blah. But they usually, like, they don't really teach us how to go through and to feel this. And this year I've been through that myself, and I was like, wow, I didn't do that work before.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Respect.
I mean, all of us, we
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's so easy to mentalize everything and be like, yeah, I'm taking care of my shadow, I'm taking care of this and that. I identified I have this abandoned wound or this rejection wound or whatever. But if you don't really feel the pain and the void, still you're not in it.
It's true. And also, if it really depends on our the story we have about the world, right? So if the world is just a place in which we consume things and we just have relationships with people, and then they end and they start, and we kind of like, try to just have a fun life and then we die, like within that kind of framework, what's the point of healing? What's the point of what's the point of going into this dark stuff and like suffering, right?
Yeah.
And because most of us don't have the framework of, well, are we actually something beyond that? And are we here on a multi-life journey through which we're experiencing many of the laws of the world and nature that move through us, and that we're actually refining the soul and the notes and the melody of our soul? Like, when the story changes about the world and life and existence, all of a sudden healing is like, of course, this is just another pathway to, to just like greater and greater clarity, love, and experience in this realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say you were still nowadays triggered by old childhood wounds, or do you feel like you are out of it completely?
No, I'm not out of it completely at all. No.
Yeah.
I have, there's always work to be done. And I think life is our teacher in that if we accept that everything that we think is going wrong is an indication of an energetic knot where something is not seen.
Yeah.
And and of course, the lower self will want to make that a problem, push it away, judge it, blame it, hide it, all these strategies so it doesn't actually have to address it. Uh,
Yeah.
but of course, that's when life just keeps going on repeat, the same cycle. And then we're 60, 70, 80 years old. And we look back and we're like, I never lived because I never actually looked within. And, I don't want that. I
Yeah.
definitely don't want to be that old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a harsh work, but I don't see and I mean, I see it so necessary and
Yeah.
it's so releasing like when you're getting done on treating all that traumas and wounds, at least a part of it, you feel way better and you get way more power from observing your shadow and feeling your shadow and reconnecting and integrating it. And I guess if we never really connect to this power that it has inside. Like I feel the shadow reveals all our potentials. Actually, it's like a paradox, one more paradox as always.
Yeah.
I see life with paradox everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah. In what way? That there are contradictions and there's no one clear answer. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or something that appears dark is actually bringing light, and this is necessary, and this is serving a positive process at the end.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the one of the most direct ways to truly awakening, transforming is seeing it the way that you're seeing it and trusting that the divine orchestrator or God, this, the source of all creation is orchestrating everything in a way where we just have faith that anything that comes into our life just needs to be seen fully. We accept that the situation is what it is. That doesn't mean, of course, we always have to say we don't just we accept that it is, but then we deal with it, right?
Yeah.
And when we start looking at life as anything that shows up is something we just see, we do our best not to react to it, but to deal with it. It is the shortest path toward maturity and growth. But it's not easy. It's very simple, but it's not easy. Like all the profound things in life.
Yeah. And you spoke about meeting with magicians. Like, where did you meet them? Like, how did you meet these people? I have some also around me, and I want to say thank you to them because at some point they helped me so much opening doors, you know? So I was curious about you. Like, did you have any mentors or at least people opening your eyes and like showing you a path?
Yeah, if I being well-rounded, diving deeper into the mystical world, and being kind of being a warrior in that, a warrior for truth with a sharp blade, which always needs to be sharpened, and courage always needs to be nurtured, and fear always needs to be faced. Right? Doesn't stop. And
Mm.
and those were qualities from this man that I received. So,
Mm.
yeah, but those are things that resonate with me as well and with my own soul. Those are the things that I romanticize, which appeal to me when I see a movie or read a story. That's what makes my heart flare up. So those are the things that I know drive me forward. But yeah, at this time, like, how the world right now, and we're entering this period, even more so, a tumultuous period. And it's interesting because it does bring up uncertainty, fear, and as well as this sometimes an obligation to act in the right way when it is scariest. And it doesn't mean we have to. It's an invitation. It's always an offering.
Yeah.
But I do feel when it's done with wisdom, with equilibrium, it greatly aids the big work that's happening.
Yeah.
With Kingdom, that's what I wanted to, one of the things with Kingdom I wanted to illustrate my short film Kingdom was just that, the courage required to look within, to clear, and then to really stand. At first we always have to stand alone. And so many times after we have to stand alone as well. But it's us and the reality of our creator, right? And that is, so we're never actually alone, but we're alone with our brothers and sisters many times, you know. We're orphaned many times on this earth, and sometimes always orphaned on this earth, as sad as it is, but we're never
Yeah.
alone. And moving through that and acting the greater work, not through fantasies, not through embellishing the ego so we feel we're a hero, but doing what is right in the moment. And most often that is quiet, it's silent, and it's not seen by anyone.
No, true.
Yeah. And there's a pain when we feel that, because the ego is like, but I want to be recognized for it, but I want it to be seen. And I know that. I know that feeling, but really,
True.
right? And
Yeah, two voices.
yeah, all the parts are like, no, no. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. In French, we say the word justesse. So I think it means rightness, maybe. It could be translated as rightness.
Okay. Maybe we say, sorry, we say,
Tell me.
I think maybe we say in English righteousness, maybe,
Righteousness.
or rightness.
Yeah, I think it's what you expressed, like this verticality, where sometimes you would be tempted of taking an easy or easier decision, but there is something in your verticality that is saying, if you do that, you lose your trajectory. Like you're not on your trajectory anymore. And this is super harsh, especially when you are lacking stability or like things you have no clue where you're going in life, and still you have to follow this rightness, and it makes things sometimes very hard. But it's like, to me at least, it was, as you said, like it's mandatory nowadays. Like I don't see myself doing anything else than that, and I promised myself, like from now on my life will be guided like through that, even though it's harsh and it's hard and many people don't get it. Like sometimes they're like, why are you not just deciding this? It's way easier. Like why do you complicate everything? And I'm like, I'm sorry you don't get it, but I do get it. And I feel that, I think this is energetical, but I don't know if you feel that too. When we take decisions aligned with this verticality, the fragmented part or like the lost energy comes back. And it's like a reunification where you get back energy. And I don't know, it's like you feel power coming back. I guess it's like self-honoring, and energetically it can be felt.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I think at that point, because the parts, they get magnetized to the strongest part that is holding the most energy. And also there's safety in that place, and they can now go into it, relax and melt and be absorbed back in. I don't know if you know G.I. Gurdjieff. He's the mystic from Armenia, Russia. So Gurdjieff was 19th century, 20th century mystic. And one of the things he said was that we all have a magnetic center, which is the I, which is the real self. And the more that we nurture that, the more awareness we put into it. He said we are made up of many different eyes, or different parts. Before parts work, before internal family systems, there's all these modalities. He was saying that, and before him, other people were saying it. But yeah, it's like magnetic center, which is the real I. And that, the more it grows, just like you're saying, it pulls in all the other parts. And then gradually there's integrity, and there's only oneness within us. So we are, yeah, and in English, the word individual means divided, not divided. Now, most of us were not individuals, and that's why Carl Jung said we individuate away from from everyone else. We individuate into oneness and being a one integral part human, and only then can we come back and then be real with everyone and be really useful, because we are not functioning out of cultural and personal wounded patterns, but from the real self, which is now connected to the transcendent. which can inform our actions. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with what you said.
Jung is so like fascinating, and he speaks also about the polarities, like the anima, the animus, the yang, the yin, the yang, and it's so true. And as you said, like individuation cannot really be done through the crowd. Like I feel I've been very isolated that year, like on my own bubble, but very, very lonely. And this path of loneliness has been, yeah, I mean, it's hard, and I got to really understand what it means, like what means loneliness and what is this void, and like what it takes to go inside and what can you bring out of this void, because usually I see many people ignoring it or trying to silence. No, 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 give me noise, give me distraction,
Mm.
don't leave me alone, and I'm trying to see like what this void has to say, but this is a very lonely path before we can come back to the society and be like, okay, I can be a true light and I can actually share out of a deeper space. So I don't know, like, did you feel like you had this loneliness this year or even during certain periods of your life where you had to really, like integrate things and be in your own bubble?
Yeah, I have. I don't think I dealt with it the way that you're dealing with it now, more maturely. But I was younger. Yeah, I've had many moments of loneliness. I've had lonely summers in my teenage years. When you yearn for love and experience and joy and communion, but then you have the opposite. Yeah, because of the forces within me at that time that were at play, I didn't understand them, and there were different things that were trapped and closed and blocked and afraid and cautious. And yeah, so I've definitely felt that. But now I'm going through a season in which I am recalibrating my relationships to friends, to friendship and allies, and I'm much more intentional. So I am in a place of letting go of certain contacts and connections. I'm allowing that energy to dissipate, seeing what is really real in there, and allowing for new seeds to be sown and to be planted. How? By staying in what I want from and what I expect from alliances, from friendships, and also who I am and how I show up. Do I show up honorably? Do I show up in goodwill? Do I show up with actual care toward other people as well? So, yeah, I'm clearing some of those webs around me now. But it's interesting because like, as you were saying that, like as human beings, we require other human beings so much. Like it's the main pain point in our life, other than, starvation and poverty, I guess. But it's
Yeah.
really, or like war. But yeah, and I wonder often, like the path of loneliness, yeah, it does teach a lot because it asks like what in me wants that and what in me is unsatisfied. Like what exactly, and what are the flavors of pain and dissatisfaction? What is happening here? And why are they constantly creating loops of emotions and thoughts that are just like, no, this is not good. This is not good. You know what I mean? And it's like, it drains a lot of energy. And also, I want to say, I'm just going to throw this in there. I think in some of those states, a lot of those can also be remnants, yes, from our childhood, from our family lineage. There could be sadness of our grandmother and my grandfather, which comes through me. And that sadness takes me over. And I don't know why, but it's not mine. But in
Yeah.
clearing that for my grandparents, by seeing that it's not mine, that it keeps coming in and weaving, there's a way to start negotiating it. And also in these, especially when we have traumatic events and situations in our life, there are energies and there are beings that enmesh themselves within the frequency of that pain because it opens it. And for them, they feed on the signals that are created by them feeding that pain. So it keeps being perpetuated in our mind, in our feelings, and in our somatic experience.
Yeah.
And they feed on that. So also, in addition to that, sometimes there is an element of going to battle. And I mean that not like slashing with a sword, but battle means being back into like our awareness and being disciplined with what thoughts and emotions we allow, which ones are mine and which ones are not. And having that like real, like, discipline and moving forward, because that is battle and that is spiritual battle. And there's also deep care for our wounded parts and our different parts. And that's care and reparenting. And there's also battle. And then there's knowing when it's like, no, this is not here for you. This is my space. Like,
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Everything echoes to our frequency, I guess. And spaces we didn't discover yet. So we can attract so different, like so many ways of different people, different profiles, depending on what we spread as an energy. Is it fear? Is it lack? Or is it like pure love and fullness? And I think like depending on what we spread, we don't have the same type of interactions. We don't have the same type of connections. Like I've observed this like so many times this year, like as you transform your energy, you don't attract the same type of people, the same type of conversation. And as you said, like it can rather just come from a pain and these people are gonna like come around and it's not gonna be good. Or it can come from mutual frequency and recognition. And this leads to something super powerful where we can explore higher spaces. And I mean, this is, for example, what I feel with you. Like, this felt so natural and
Mhm.
normal to me because, like, many people asked me, they were like, how you don't know each other? Like, how did you get to choose this conversation like so easy? And it's just, it's just happening. And I was like, I feel with some beings, I feel we share a frequency and there's no questions to be asked because this is I think it's like energy way more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It is. It is. Yeah, it's interesting with those energies and yeah, what we attract, who we attract and how we build together is interesting. And oftentimes as you were saying that, I feel like we think we know. Like, for instance, people will say, especially when we're younger, well, no, but I just want, I'm showing up in love, but why do I get hurt? I'm showing up in this way. But that just shows us that something within that is still like, we're not claiming ourselves or we're not building a boundary or there's maybe not worth, there's neediness. So needy love is love, but not complete love because complete
No.
love, and it just we're being taught for the complete love sometimes is stepping away and walking away is also in love, but also knowing how to open, how to close, and how to hold space. Like there's so many things. So again, it goes back to the whole thing we were saying, anything that shows up in life is another sign of where we can look, understand, and mature. Yeah. But yeah, no, I appreciate the conversation as well. I do feel ease and just a natural flow. When there's nothing, it's good because when there's nothing to prove, um,
Yeah.
you can just share experiences.
Exactly. Because at some point I was like, should I prepare? Like, should I ask specific questions to him? Whatever. And then I was like, no. Like I want to have a natural conversation and connect to the person. And so many times it doesn't happen when you put structure and you mentalize, you stay here and
Yeah.
you're not here. And for this conversation, I wanted to be here, here, and also here.
Mhm.
And just vertical. And that's something I'm trying to do, like with people when I connect. I breathe and just speak from my whole being, not from my head, which is not super. It's not that easy sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a brainy person, and I am, sometimes it's just very hard to get down.
Yeah, I agree. I can resonate with that for sure. One thing, I've done a few conversations and podcasts, and I recently started interviewing people too, but I'm not going to release those videos. I just decided not
Why?
to. It just doesn't feel right. But the conversations were great. I really enjoyed them. But the reason I bring that up is I do just enough preparation to know the sections of something,
Mhm.
but then to allow the freedom because especially if someone sends me questions ahead of time. And when I first started doing podcasts, I'd have to think about the questions and an answer. But yeah, I would show up to the interview and I would be speaking my memories of what the question is.
Yes.
I wouldn't be alive right now. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, personal experiment for me and a personal pleasure was to come into the podcast, knowing that often because, I work in animation, I've made some films, often the questions would be similar. And for me, my experiment was how can I answer that most truthfully in the moment without going into memory? And
Mm.
it always felt like because each time I'd had to check in with my felt sense of what is real now, and I'd have to
Yeah.
speak it. And it's much more rewarding. I think the mental aspect is when we speak from the mind, a lot of times we're curating the personality. in how the personality appears. And if we're curating, we're constructing the appearance, and that's exhausting, right?
Reassuring something,
Yeah,
I'm
reassuring.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. And it's such a freeing thing when we gradually can start letting go of that. But it requires building something else that's real inside before the shell can start falling off. And you can't just take off the shell and then not have much here. It would be very vulnerable, painful, and maybe not a good thing. But gradual,
True.
right? So it's
Yeah.
gradual, like letting things go and being courageous enough in moments to be like, oh, here I can just be real. Here I can be real. Allow
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And this is a huge exercise, especially nowadays with social media. Like we sell us so many processes that are working. Like if you want to have a good marketing, you have to say this or that. If you want to be seen by the algorithm, you should do this or that. And then it's just like this dilemma of should I play the game or should I just be completely out of it? Like I don't know how do you are way more exposed than me because you are actually like you have this art and all those creations. Like how are you dealing with it? Like, did you find an equilibrium between those things?
I think so. But because I'm not very public. I don't put a lot of stuff out. I don't have a business that requires me to put things on social media.
Yeah.
And there's a trap. Influencers, certain coaches or spiritual teachers, they have to put out content so that they can continue to be relevant and to have people sign up for courses or sessions. And I understand that. I have a lot of friends
Yeah.
that do that. Uh, but it's also a trap because you have to play with the algorithm and you
Yeah.
have to play with this being that is like your master. And your master says, post this many times a week, do these kind of videos,
Yeah.
people have to force themselves to come up with new things.
Yeah.
There aren't that many new things, and that's why a lot of people repeat stuff and
Yeah.
just repeat stuff even that's not that useful. So for me, how is it? Well, yeah, luckily I don't have to, for now, make a living by doing so. But I do have a desire to express more. Um,
Oh.
maybe I can share why I haven't been, or maybe not, doesn't matter. But for me, first, it was, when I first released In Shadow and maybe Kingdom, there was some concern of how I would be seen or how I appeared. And I've grown a lot since then. But yeah, I had to let go of a lot of my ego's desire to appear a certain way. I also,
Mm.
in the process, I know that I disappointed a lot of people because
Why?
why? Because watching, and I knew this would happen, which is why I wanted to separate myself from my art. I didn't want people to associate a human being with the art. I wanted them to have the experience of the art because I didn't make the art for me have more status, right? I made the art because the art needed to be made and to be seen by people so that it can do its work. And
Yeah.
that's why the first 5 years or so, I didn't really do podcasts or anything. I was saying no. And then later I started doing it. And why were people disappointed? Well, what I've seen and what I think in some cases is, I am a more or less a regular human being. Some people based on my films thought I would be enlightened and they would project things that they expected from me, and I did not deliver those things. I also the way that I see the world, the way that I investigate the world, many people in the alternative space, they decide that things are a certain way. Aliens exist in this way, and this is what they do to people, and this is how the government is related to aliens. To me, it's like maybe I'm looking at the evidence, I consider the evidence, and it remains a maybe unless I fully know it. And
Yeah.
often I'll be like, it's very likely, and I function on that. But so I try to be very accurate in how I see the world. And because of that, many people don't like that. They're like, oh, well, you don't know what's going on. But it's kind of like, well, if you're so sure that it's this way, I don't think you know what's going on because it's the thing is, the more we reach maturity, I feel is there are more ingredients that we're considering, right?
Yes, it's
More
true.
music, the better we get at playing music, the more notes we hear and the more subtle we can create those notes. The better a writer is, the better
Mm.
they can write the more subtle nuances. That means our palette expands. And if our palette's expanding, we have to be wiser of which ingredients are moving together. But at the same time, that doesn't mean, I have convictions. And sometimes I do say things with my own authority, being like, I'm not fully sure, but I can't prove it, but I know this is what's happening and I'm just going to say it. So there's
Yeah.
also that.
Yeah. Sometimes we know, like, how do you call it? Intuitively, we feel we know.
Yeah. And that's
And it's hard to give it any logical explanations, but this is how we feel. Like, I don't know. It's, yeah, as you said, like convictions, and also like a feeling something is off or there's something going on. Like I had this feeling during the COVID period. I didn't need anyone to, believe what I was feeling. I don't care. That was my truth, but at least,
Mhm.
I followed what I thought was real and right. And I've been quite judged sometimes or misunderstood, but it doesn't really matter because now I'm happy I kept with my own decisions. But yeah, people can disagree on many things and they can be so sure of, like, I was a bit like that before, into conspiracy and thinking like, yeah, this is exactly what is happening, and I was so sure. And as you said, after discovering deeper parts of myself and making this a deeper work, I got calmer. I wouldn't say I'm not seeing things in a innocent way. I still have my discernment, but I'm way less sure. And as you said, I'm just trying to find the middle place where I admit some things are going on for sure, but I don't know exactly how it works. So I prefer to observe and observe it inside myself first.
Yeah.
And let's see what I discover. But I cannot have, how do you say, certitude? Yes, I think it's pretty narrow. It's narrow-minded
Yeah.
and
And
reassuring one more time. When you're like, this is how it is. So then the mental is like, okay, I'm at peace. I know. I know perfectly what's going on. And it's reassuring. While when we don't know, we lose our sense of territory and certainty, as you said. And it can be scary to not know anything and be like, actually, I have no clue. But this is, I guess, more real.
it's true. Well, because we live in a realm of duality, there's always polar opposites.
Yeah,
And what is really true is weaving those, so the spectrum is woven in the center. And that's where that pillar, that access to greater intelligence is. But
yeah,
but at the same time, like you were saying, and we're both saying, yeah, no certainty. And yet, this is funny, this is another duality. And also, at certain moments, we do need to have that authority to be like, no, this is how it is, so we can build a base,
totally.
but to be open to be wrong.
Yeah,
So
I
it's like, it's
agree. I agree.
refining, right? It's like, yes, this is, I'm going to accept that this is how it is, and I'm going to move from here upward. But also, if I get more information, I have the humility to reorient and readjust. And I think
Yes.
that's how like wisdom actually grows.
True. Yeah, I think it's a trap we have in spirituality nowadays. Like, everything is subjective. There is no right and wrong. And I'm like, yes, there is right and there is wrong.
Yes.
Stop the bullshit, like. And I
Yeah.
think this is something we fall into way too much times, in this new age spirituality, and you have to be seen very open minded and everything, and you end up having no certainties and no, yeah, like
Yeah.
you're just blurred. You're in a blurred zone where actually you know the truth. Like, you can know something is right or wrong.
Totally. No, absolutely. Which is why the new age now is, in some ways, it's collapsing as a tool for growth and inquiry. Because, yeah, at the end, if there are no virtues and values with which we grow, a lot of people end up being left immature, chasing fun times, chasing ease, chasing pleasure. None of those things are wrong. But when they're used as escape and they're masked as spirituality, then we're left harmed and tricked and deceived. And one of the ways that there's an adversary in this realm. There's a big energy and many smaller energies whose work is to take us away from the full realization of who we are as fragments of the divine source and fully connected to it at all times. And that's part of the big game, right? And the new age, just like rigid dogmatic religions around the world, and in my opinion, some religions more than others, they all take us away from that, right?
Mm,
At the same time, within religions, there are pathways and disciplines if they're done, if they're taught by men and women of integrity and wisdom and love, then they can be pathways because there's discipline and there's structure. With the New Age, there's no discipline and there's no structure. It's too loose. A religion can be too rigid and dogmatic. Science is also rigid and dogmatic, and each one is trying to avoid reality, but each one has a piece of truth as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I'm moving, but like for me, esoteric Christianity, I'm seeing a lot of truth there. And I've been seeing it through my own experiences, not through any intermediary. So what does that mean? And at the same time, I'm seeing so much rigidity in what people call Christianity.
Yeah.
I see it even more so in other religions too, but I won't go into it. Those are realities and those are things that we have to parse for ourselves. Like for me, just also to be clear, I consider myself a student of the perennial wisdom. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term.
What does that mean?
So perennial wisdom is the perennial tradition is really the stream of creation and the kind of the spiritual philosophy, mystical revelation that moves through all cultures, in which the symbols of those particular cultures and their ceremonies, passages, and philosophies were all geared to knowing ultimately the one true self, right? So, for instance, you take the Eleusinian mysteries in Greece or the mysteries in the Middle East, the Persians, etc. Before that, Zoroastrian, like there's shamanic truths. Each, as we evolve with humanity, we evolve from the earth traditions into the traditions that encompass more of the full cosmos. You start weaving the underworld with the higher realms as we're evolving. But that stream of the perennial philosophy is always the ultimate truth of souls enveloped in matter, awakening and understanding the forces and the laws at play. And so as that evolves, more elements and more awakened humans come in and they become part of the mythologies. But for instance, right now, there's the element of the light of the Christ, the Christic light, which is really the instance of the source of all creation in a human being, which was available now from that action for all beings, right? Through the act of the blood, the holy blood being implemented into I'm speaking from the point of view of Rudolf Steiner, the etheric blood being part of our realm. And now this second coming, which is potentially, and what I feel is the embodiment of all human beings of this Christic essence in which we surrender our lower selves to embody this higher self, right? Well, that entered our evolutionary stream at a certain point. Before that, that was not available. Before that, you had the Buddhistic, the various teachings of the Hindus and the Atman and the various technologies of awakening. And so, in my view, there are different layers in our evolutionary stream where new elements are coming in. But the adversary is constantly taking them and warping them. That's why you have the church, right? You have the Roman church, which warps a lot of these things. It pretends it's a pathway, but it's actually a limitation. And it offers certain aspects that help build culture in some ways, and in others, it destroys it, stifles it. So anyway, I've kind of opened up something, and we can go in so many ways here.
I totally get you when you speak about this, so no worries.
Yeah.
I completely get that. I feel this, so yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
So as you said, like there is so many things to say about religions and dogmatic thoughts. Like if I just speak about myself because it's more real, it's very weird, but it actually makes sense. When I was younger, when I was a kid, then a teenager, and then a young adult, and not a long time ago, I was still in that loop. I was trying to find my truth inside religions. So I tried Christianity. At some point, I was like, okay, that's not feeling like it doesn't make sense to me. I was feeling awkward. One of my friends was evangelist, and she brought me to church, and she brought me to, like barbecues with friends, and everyone was Christian and everything. And at some point, I don't know, I felt like that's not my home. That's not what I was looking for. Like I knew I had this impulse to find myself and to find my spiritual family, let's say. But I was like, it's not there. Like, I'm sorry, like it's not Jesus, it's not these people. So I have to cut off. And then I was like, maybe it's going to be in Buddhism and maybe it's going to be in New Age spirituality. And at some point I was like, oh, as you said, like there are some truths in there, but still I was not meeting with myself. And something very powerful is that I realized that I was looking for a father external. So you can look for your terrestre, like earth father when you're a kid. Then you can look for a spiritual father. And then the third, like space that you should try to reach is your inner one. But it took me so long to be like, okay, I was actually looking for my inner father, my space in me. But before that, I was always looking externally,
Mm.
outside, like spiritual masters, Shiva or whoever master it would be. And they just taught me, like, hey, you have to build your inner father.
Amazing, amazing. That's a very, very profound realization. And how is that relationship now for you with the inner father
Growing.
growing? And
I
is there
wouldn't do this podcast today if it wasn't there.
interesting? So is that something that gives you more inner authority or confidence, or is it how? What's your relationship like? Is it something that you embody that inner father, or is it more as a guide, or is it both?
This is as parenting, I would say,
Yeah,
and develop this healthy masculinity inside myself and asking myself, like, what would the father do right now? What would the father say? And like make this dialogue happen. And like in the past I was a big fan of Shiva, and I saw many Shivite aspects in your drawings actually and your videos, and that's beautiful. I love Shiva, but
I love
he's an
Shiva.
yeah. Do you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
him?
yeah. I do.
I'm a fan of Shiva. Like I love him. Okay, but I know it's a divine archetype. And not a long time ago, I was just like, okay, if I'm such a fan of him, it's just because I'm a little Shiva myself. And what I see in him, as an energy, is something that lives already inside. And that's why I recognize it in you. Recognize any divine archetype when you actually have it in you, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, when it's
Like,
actualized in us. Yes, for sure. Yeah, yeah, Shiva is yeah, yeah. It is an archetype, and I think it's well, an archetype and also a divine being, but I guess that's where, my understanding is not complex enough to understand that, and that's what that's what we're working toward. Yeah, the archetype embodied from a being, but anyway, yeah.
are you familiar to his energy, like inspired by this well, let's say this god? Like how did you get to know this energy?
Well, I had a personal experience of giving a lesson in real embodiment, and I kind of don't want to go fully. I don't want to say the full thing of what happened, but I'll just say that the image that I was working with, I looked it up online, and it was Shiva's image, and I was like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah.
And then when I started looking into the Shakti Shiva duality, and then looking more into the tantric space, and looking at Kashmiri Shaivism, which is one of the traditions of
Yeah.
direct pointing and awakening, and I was like, yep, this is it's a very austere, in a way, in some ways very austere masculine way, because it's like pure presence, pure holding a cosmic container structure of emptiness within which then all life can exist in the dance of like beauty and play, and all duality can also exist too, right? So yeah, that's kind of how it started. And so I have great reverence, and of course my ongoing journey is, how does one reconcile that with different lenses of different traditions?
Mm.
Because I have experiences with lenses of different traditions. And my inquiry is, are they the same energy from different cultural lenses, or are they different energies in stewardship of different aspects of the cosmic reality? I don't know. I can't deny either of them, because these are experiences that are undeniable. Of course, I may
Yeah.
confuse, but so yeah.
Yeah. I had the same like symbols and images and sometimes like experiences that made me seek deeper and be like, who is that? And as you said, we find him in all the cultures around the earth with different names.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I think like if it is a being or just an archetype, anyway, I guess his message is like just, like be your own Shiva. Don't be me. Just be yourself, and in unification and unified being, because this is what he tried to teach humanity. Like, try to be really connected to your body, to your different bodies, and be like me, but don't be me. At least it's how I feel about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I think that is ultimately the lesson of Christ, of Jesus also, is be like me. Here is a model, and here
Yeah.
are the teachings of how to walk this path in wakefulness and in full mastery of oneself, in full charity and love. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like how you said that. Be me, be like me, or be me. Join this thing. Yeah, yeah, it's very. Is that something like have you been to India? Have you followed that, some of those traditions on your path?
No, not at all. It's I don't know, like my past has been kind of a movie in some ways, relating to Shiva and this spiritual path, because I've been always meeting with people that guided me through this. Like, they opened door and they were like, "Oh, check this or check that," and then, like, you dig, you gather information, and then you integrate things, and you feel things. And with years, I got to feel so close to this being, but I cannot even say why. I guess because I was recognizing, I don't know, part of myself, or source of inspiration to me. Like, he's a source of inspiration because he's so free, and he lives in abundance. He dances, he doesn't care. He's cosmic, and he's also earth. Like, he's both, like Shiva Shakti is earth and sky, and he's just so free, and he doesn't belong to any religion. He's just like out of the game. He's like, "I'm not into any of this. I'm my own universe." And this is so inspiring because I feel like I want to be my own universe as well.
Hmm.
And I guess maybe in previous lives, I was part of dogs more, or religion groups, or whatever, factions, or I don't know. And now my soul is kind of like asking me to just be on her own,
Hmm.
just be my own universe, because it's actually huge, and all of us, we have huge universe. But it's just like, be by yourself. You don't need any group to belong to. I don't know how you feel about this, if you feel like that.
I feel similar to you, and at the same time, I see drawbacks for myself. I see it for others when if we don't belong to a lineage, it's easier to get distracted and it's easier to have our energy dissipated. But lineages and schools and traditions keep people in stages of development when it's, like we were saying earlier, if it's curated well by good, real people. But yeah, my whole life I've been multidisciplinarian, in and out of different things. And it's funny because earlier we spoke about the new age and a lack of discipline and maybe going in and out. So that is there. And I also want to say in religions, it's interesting because when there's no mystical revelation through experience, people will see the religion that they're part of as mental images and beliefs. And beliefs are a
Mhm.
series of thoughts. Thoughts are mental. And we have images are also mental, right? Like they can be clairvoyant and deeper, but the
Yeah.
shallow images. So most people, most of us, our concept of God in whatever religion it is an idea that we hold in our thoughts. So actually, we're not having a relationship with God, but we're having a relationship with our thoughts. And this is where the deeper esoteric
Once
aspects.
again, in the head.
Yeah. So that's why
Mm,
the reason I'm bringing this up is as more and more people right now in the West, because of confusion and chaos, are moving back to Christianity, I notice a lot of people are becoming dogmatic and they'll say something like, this part of Indian belief, like let's say someone could say Shiva, that's demonic. Now they don't understand what it is, but if they only function
yeah.
through the mind, they'll hear, oh, it's a different God, therefore that's idolatry or it's whatever it is. From the mind, that makes sense that anything other than, God and whatever else one ascribes power to would be demonic. But in actual mystical experience, when we start going, you were speaking about the void earlier, and then more and more contacting these divine hierarchies. Within these experiences, this is what the mystical, esoteric Christians who were always persecuted, throughout history had. The church did not like the direct communion and good conversation with God. They didn't like that, right? So that
Obviously not.
becomes demonic too. But yeah, so communion through different traditions with that monad, with that ultimate experience with oneself, how is that reconciled with other traditions? That's why the mystics of all traditions understand each other, because they contact the ground of all being, right? But people stuck in their mind create war between religions and misunderstanding because they're in their mind, because they're still being ruled by the adversary of the lower world and all the demonic powers which rule thoughts. Anyway, we've got like many decades and centuries to keep going and resolving this, because ultimately our destiny is to be awakened fully on this earth. I don't know how many thousands of years it will take, or hundreds, probably thousands, but that is the destiny, is the gradual evolution. And we will know this. But right now, the globe, like our world is opening up. There's a clash of all these things.
Yeah.
Some of it is engineered, it's forced, and some of it is in God's design, I think, too, is so that all these clashes and things will, through pain and other things, will resolve a lot of like issues and like what works, what doesn't, what is, what values matter, what values are actually not good, what values are degenerate, what values seem like freedom, tolerance, and other things, but are actually destroying integrity, what values seem like rigid or whatever, but are actually freeing because they create structures. Sometimes good structures need to be created so the more freedom and liberty can flourish in them. Other things destroy structures thinking it's freedom, but they destroy civilization.
Yeah.
The big game we're entering right now.
Yeah, true. And this is what you said about like new age spirituality, like that is a trap. Like too much freedom isn't actually freedom, and actually responsibility is freedom. But it takes so much time sometimes to realize that. And I feel the same. Like we have two opposite energies. I mean, at least this is how I feel. Like we have this rising energy expansion, like everything is moving up, and like it's very powerful, and we have another very dark energy that is doing that
Yes,
like this.
totally.
So if you're kind of sensitive, you feel this, and I guess everyone kind of feel it, but it's just like one ton of light, like very powerful light, and at the same time something very dark that is trying to like pollute
Yes,
us, like bring fears, nightmares, bad stuff, and
yes,
drain the energy down. And that's where you cannot do anything. Like when you are polluted by shitty thoughts and stuff, you cannot do and achieve anything. It's
yes.
you're just stuck.
Yeah, I agree. That's totally, absolutely true. And especially at this time, we're feeling it's more and more, feeling the energy of the fear, of the intimidation,
Mm.
the more of an inability to connect to other human beings,
Yeah.
charges. Yeah, it's a very interesting time, but it's exactly in this time. And it's exactly those forces that are asking those of us who are willing to awaken more courage, more light, and to figure out the ways in which we navigate this so we can bring in more of that wisdom through action, real, right aligned action in our words and just in our actions. And, so there's no ready solution, which is, I actually love that, because we're asked to figure it out, and we can inform it through scripture, through certain other wise humans, through books and things. Like there are pieces of the puzzle are there, but ultimately moment by moment we have to apply it in our life, in our situation uniquely. And the adversarial forces, they're constantly giving us the solutions, right? We know we know the formula: chaos and then solutions out of that chaos. And if we're not calibrated, we're going to keep agreeing to these solutions of these human beings who are guided by darker forces. And that's not fun. It's also, there's no dignity in it. And, there's no judgment. Who knows? We all carry our fears, and we have victories and losses and defeats and so on. But at this time, I think I think there's a lot of light coming in. There's a lot of guidance here, and it's ready and it's available. We just need to rise to receive it, because Those energies ask for us to rise. They come to our rescue when we are in our lowest. But if we avoid the call, if we avoid the difficulty of what needs to be done, those energies cannot reach us. So when we rise, they touch us. It's like Michelangelo's painting in the Sistine Chapel of the man and the interpretation of God, like touching like this, the finger, right?
Yeah.
If the human being stays here and says, please, God, please, like, save me, but it's like, but I can also please, and I'm willing to save.
Very true.
They touch, and it's like, okay, now you're a real player in the game. Now you're a living player. You're not a dead player, just kind of running programs.
Passive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many of us are passive, but we get used to that.
Yeah.
It's very true. And I guess like the amount of energy that can be received if you're not aware or prepared or like cleaning yourself, you cannot get this rush of energy without getting completely crazy.
It's true.
I think like if you're not ready, it's gonna just give you schizophrenia or something, sometimes in some cases. It's too much too fast, and then it's like, whoa,
Have you
what happened?
experienced?
I've met someone 1 year ago that is having this a very powerful level of energy.
Yeah.
To me, he looks a bit like a Shiva, but in a human being. And it's not common for me to meet people like that. I actually have two people like this in my surrounding, but his energy was pure love, but so pure that it was so powerful. Like if you're not ready, you just cry everything, all your tears out, and you're just like exhausted. Like at the beginning, 1 hour with him would make me sleep hours after that because I was exhausted of his presence.
Whoa.
I don't know if you already like met with spiritual, I would say masters or like high vibration beings. Like for me, It happened twice, and like each time I was falling into tears. I was cleaning like years and years of denial and wounds, and like they don't need to say anything. That they are present, and this kind of very deep love and light just makes you collapse. It's
Beautiful.
very yeah, but it's
Yeah.
hard. And this
Yeah.
is what you said about love earlier. You said like, hey, relationships, when you have true love and you have needy love.
Yeah.
And true love is actually such a hard thing to master, to acquire. Like you need to purify from so many things. And seeing this pure love in front of you, you're like, oof, I still have path to do, to reach this level of fullness, because I think it's a level of fullness. Like I'm so full of myself that I just want to share. I don't need anything from you. I don't have insecurities. I don't have all of this. Like I'm just happy to share presence with you, but
Mhm.
I'm not asking anything from you. And this is beautiful.
Yeah. It's it's definitely a challenge to get there, but it is beautiful. It is, because then, yeah, love can be real and pure. I agree. I agree with that. And unfortunately, I have not had the experience that you've had with meeting with human beings like that. But what you said, being fried, your system being fried by such a huge energetic charge, I think that when we're not ready, I think we get what we need. But I think sometimes people can force the issue and they can kick the door down. Like I've had a friend who did that and suffered for it. They kicked the door to heaven down in a way.
Yeah.
Through occult practices. Sometimes it's, through Kundalini yoga, you can force something to happen. Kriya yoga, like by forcing it, but the nervous system is not ready.
No.
The glands or the chakras are not ready either.
Mm.
And then I think, yeah, the system can be fried, but otherwise the intelligence of everything works with us so that we allow it at the pace that it needs to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say for me, like I'm not crazy, but what I can say is that it revealed my shadow. My essence and my spirit were like, oh wow, I love this being. Like I love to be in his presence. That there were this mutual recognition. And I was like, yeah, I feel great with that person. And in another way, on another side, a part of me was completely under anguish, like highest level of anguish possible. I was fucking scared. I was, I don't know how to describe it. This reveals the shadow and the underneath part that don't want to be seen, and they are actually seen, because like a being like that, they see everything from you
Yeah.
and they read you. So this shadow were like, they were like, no, 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 no. I don't want to be seen because I don't want to be treated. It's weird.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, yeah. And also those parts in that light, they feel like, yeah, they can't hide, they can't pretend, and they will have to be purified at some point. So it's like, oh no, I will that part feels like it's going to die or disappear
Yes.
in the light of truth, because when truth is there, it cannot live in the light that it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. And
And
then
like he taught to me that those fears are individual fears. They are my fears, but they melt into these collective fears that you illustrate so well,
Mhm.
where sometimes it's not even your fear anymore. It's just like, it's beyond that. It's not even yours anymore. It's just these collective thoughts that are, like dragging you down or polluting you at night, and be like, why are you doing this? You should not be here. You don't deserve that. What the fuck are you doing with your life? And it comes, and more you expand yourself, and more and closer you get to yourself, more you have those. I mean, to me, it happens like those fears at night where I feel polluted by some voices sometimes telling me like, what the fuck are you doing? Or like threatening me of death, and I'm like, it's not me. It's from somewhere, but it's not myself.
yes.
It's pretty confusing.
Yeah, it is. That's very important to understand for sure. That's where the spiritual battle comes in.
Oh,
having
discernment.
those boundaries and be like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Do you feel that way?
I do, because as soon as those thoughts, we agree that they're ours, and now we start cycling through them, and our energy is drained, our willpower is drained, everything gets drained. As soon as that happens, then those other energies are like, oh, excellent, and they kind of like celebrate in a way. And
Yes.
that is a function of the matrix that we're in.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like the matrix needs to be escaped. By the matrix, I just mean the fabric of this creation and all of its laws of biology, of physics, this physical realm. But it's also within it, the patterning. There is, like I keep saying the word adversary because I don't want to give it a specific name for any tradition. Its function, like you said, the higher is pulling us, the lower is, like you said, it was hitting us. For me, it feels like the lower keeps trying to pull us into sleep, passivity, rigidity. The higher keeps trying to expand us, move us up. But we have to agree to the higher and constantly move into it. There has to be a conscious work. The downward spiral, we just don't have to do anything. We just fall asleep, we stop trying, and it naturally drags us. And so with these like thoughts and these doubts and these things, they're a function of this matrix. And in my view, we're here not to escape this matrix. We're here to transform it. That's why we're part of it. We're part of it with our biology, with the minerals in our bodies, and with the frequencies within our energy. We're part of it. And what we are doing is actually bringing it up to a higher level by bringing in more and more of those higher frequencies, which then are enacted through higher behavior, with the way we show up, the way we function, the way we create through our words and actions and our choices. And so when those things hijack us, they're keeping us lower into that into the lower matrix, and we can't participate in the great work of transforming the realm, right? So this is where, if our story is bigger and we're not just consumers trying to be popular and trying to have a fun life, but we're actually trying to working toward a fulfilling life of part of this great game, which is fucking extraordinary, then we can wage that spiritual warfare and be like, no. And then again, I just want to repeat this, then we can also have those gentler parts of us when we do need to hold and nurture. But we can only hold and nurture when we also have that divine mother and divine father within us that create the boundaries and say, absolutely not. And yes
Yeah.
and no to that. And the yes is firm and the no is firm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a question for you about the Forest King.
Yeah.
I understood that this it comes from a poem. I think it comes from a Russian poem or something like that. What gave you the inspiration of using this poem as a story and revise it and put it in illustration like you did?
So the poem is Russian. Before that, it came from Goethe from Germany, and before Goethe, he adapted it from Scandinavia. I'm not sure if it's from Sweden. So it has that lineage. And these Russian producers came to me, and they had a series of folk tales, and one of them was The Forest King. And they asked me if I wanted to participate in an anthology of 6 episodes based on Russian horror folk tales. That was the only story that stood out to me, and I saw it as an invitation to work with that energy and that lineage of the story, and I transformed it into a future dystopian story, and I added the elements that I'd been working with, and I wrote it in 2021, so it's a while back during COVID, and what I wanted to show with the story was the possession of souls updated to our life, which is the possession of consciousness by the virtual realm. And the virtual digital realm is also elemental, it's electric. And the old world, which is still present, the elemental, the electric realm, the elemental realm is the realm of possession of the darker elves, darker gnomes, the darker spirits function within this elemental realm. And we experience that through ceremonial work with entheogens, with plant medicines. So, I mean, the Forest King, there's a lot there. But that was the way it showed up for me. And I saw that I could continue the lineage of that story and interpret it for our modern times with some of our modern problems.
Yeah, that was incredible. I really liked it. And at the same time, it was very sad.
Yeah.
Like to see how it can affect kids as well, you know. Like many times I'm very sad, like imagining like the future of younger generation and how screen, especially like screen are impacting their childhood. That's super, super, super scary.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Agreed.
yeah. So yeah, I guess it's hard. I don't know, like if you're a dad, I guess it's hard to have kids nowadays.
Yeah, it is. No, I'm not a father, but I will be. It is. I mean, yeah, it's it will happen is what I'm saying. It will happen, I believe, soon. But yeah, it is a difficult thing, and at the same time, um, it's an incredible responsibility because the new people, the new humans of this
Yeah.
earth need to be educated and trained in the new ways so that they can continue the continue.
Do you feel and after I get we can end because maybe you don't have infinite time, but do you feel like the message you tried to spread through your movies and illustrations have been understood and integrated by people?
Yeah, I think more people than I would have imagined, for sure. And Shadow, I think, is much more accessible to people. It's easier to see the darkness in the world. Kingdom offered some solutions, even though they were symbolic. And I think it's less understood by people because less people want to be part of the solution. It also
Yeah.
and also, it requires more self-revelation, like we were saying, and self-work. But judging by the comments on that keep coming in with Kingdom, I've been so moved by that there are so many evolved, lucid, and sophisticated human beings who understand the game,
Yeah.
and they're not caught up by the small misunderstandings. So in that way, it's a beacon for those people. And so I'm honored to have been able to be inspired by this work, to bring it forward, to have the discipline to bring it forward, and to have allowed for it to be helpful in some way, as we are all doing our best to be helpful in the process.
It's to me it's been not kind of a confirmation and something reassuring to see what I was feeling like in a movie like yours. It was such a release, especially the end. I was like, wow, this feels so familiar,
Mhm.
to me. So that was so good to see it in images. Yeah, it
That's
is.
wonderful to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's it's not common. Like I would say, I didn't see much people like treating this darkness topic that much as you do, and it's really needed. We need that to expand and to educate in a different way, in a more intuitive way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And we'll see in the coming year, perhaps I'll get back into creating more offerings through my communication and my expression and the path forward just from my lens. So yeah.
How do you, when you're not creating art, like how do you like to consume your days? Like what do you appreciate? What do you like to do or to be?
Well, I am constantly navigating the part of me that is a modern man with tasks and work and responsibilities, and also looking forward into anticipating future events and preparing the perimeter for family, friends. So right now it's a dynamic time. I, like many of us, tend to put too much energy and maybe in unveiling some of the darker dynamics. So I'm guilty. But like I mentioned, this year I'm feeling more and more of that expansion to build. So now there are more alliances with like-minded people. There's more brotherhood in my life, which there was a pause on that for a few years. So more men around me who are aligned with this path, forging a path forward and taking action in the appropriate way. And so that's an important part. And also allowing space for my own just emptiness, and also from that emptiness to move forward in a generative way. And allowing more creativity. So I spend my time between tasks, mental preoccupation, lists of things that need to be done, and then allowing for empty space so that I can offload and be informed by the deeper impulses of how to proceed and how not to lose track of family, friends, so that the real essentials of life, which is connecting with other human beings, can happen, because I can easily go into my mental space and really withdraw. So my effort is to pass on that which was moving through me, to pass through others, and to be open to their wisdom to pass through me as well.
Yeah, incarnate. I guess like incarnation also is, as you said, like sometimes we are very mental or we dive into our spheres and we forget to concretize and incarnate and connect with people uh, in a very like spontaneous way, and we can isolate and get used to isolation, which is not either, like it's not a, I don't think it's a good balance either.
Yeah,
So
there are seasons for isolation, and they're necessary, but they need to be in service of greater connection.
yeah.
I know it's very difficult. I think the greatest satisfaction and greatest difficulty comes from relationships, but
Yes, I
yeah.
agree.
um, but for us to move forward, it is that difficult work of figuring that out somehow. Yeah,
Totally. It's a huge training place. Relationships. It's
yeah.
very huge. It's very hard. But as you said, like it's where we learn the most. It's not about avoiding, but confronting, grow together, be true, be real, be authentic, even though it's hard sometimes to speak our truth. But yeah, it's necessary. And I guess like when we start to speak the truth, even though it's raw, we allow the other one to do the same, and we can break patterns of unsaid stuff that are getting crystallized in generations, especially in families. Like I think it's killing and polluting so many families and health, like these lineage things where there are nods, as you said, and it's not resolved, it's not exposed, it's not felt, and then it keeps on transferring to next generations, and it causes problems of health and stuff. It's
Mhm.
a taboo. Usually it's very uncomfortable to confront that, but I think it's necessary.
Indeed. Yep, that is the work. That is the work.
Well, thank you so much. It's been almost 2 hours.
Yeah, flew by.
So it's a long first episode. I'm super happy we did this. And I'm super I'm very sure that people will appreciate and they will be curious about it, and it will resonates for the proper profiles that feels this frequency. And I'm super glad we did this like we wanted, like with this flowing energy and just following
Yeah.
the this intuition we had. So it was very nice and a very great moment for me, and honor again. So thank
Mm.
you for this time you took.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise. It was very, very enjoyable. Thanks for the invitation, Maeve. I really enjoy these times where we can just deep dive and be very concentrated. So I appreciate that. And thank you to everyone who stayed until the end to listen to us. And yeah, we'll speak again.